So there's actually, sorry, I think I just muted and unmuted myself. So hopefully you can all hear me now. So there's actually a picture of me. That's what I look like, although that was at the start of lockdown. So now my hair is much longer and so is my beard. But welcome to the course today. I hope this finds everybody well. I hope that everyone is doing well and everyone is healthy. Strange time in the world at the moment, but like I've been saying to everyone on all the courses I've been delivering for the last couple of weeks, things are only getting better now. So news is much more positive. Everything that's going on is much more positive. Even the weather has been much more positive. It's been absolutely fantastic. So welcome everybody to the course. So just to kind of talk about a few things before we begin. So at the moment, Escala, where our chosen charity at the moment is the Royal Hospital of Neurodisability. We do have a link set up to donate some money to them. So where this webinar is free, we are asking people if they do have any spare bit of cash around at all. If you could possibly donate, it's an absolutely fantastic cause, as I'm sure you've all read about in the news over the last few months, with the focus being on COVID-19. Lots of other charities and illnesses have kind of gone under the radar a little bit, and it is important that we still support everything that the NHS are doing. We'd also like to thank the NHS and anybody from the NHS or any of the frontline services on this course today, because I know there is quite a few of you. So from the bottom of my heart and from everybody at Scala, we want to say a massive thank you for everything that you've all been doing over the last couple of months. I mean, to be honest, forever, because I've always had fantastic healthcare in my life, and so has everybody I've known. But in particular, I know that everyone's been going more than the extra mile over the last couple of months, and the whole country is grateful for that. So just a few bits and pieces about the webinar before we begin. You can ask a question by typing it into the question area on the right hand side of your screen. So within GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, which we're all using at the moment, you should have a little section on the right hand side where you can ask questions. I won't be taking questions during the session, so whilst I'm delivering the course, I'm not going to start switching to questions, because can then become very difficult and disrupt the flow. But at the end of the session, I'm going to stay around, or stick around for a little bit, and I'll look through the questions and I'll answer as many as I possibly can. And you can also ask your questions at the end of the session too. Some of your questions I may not be able to answer. So in the past, when we've been running this webinar, sometimes people ask questions about things that are specific to their organization and their IT setup. So if it is something that is specific to your organization, I do apologize if I can't answer that question, and I would recommend asking your IT department maybe those sorts of things. But anyway, I'll do my best to get through all the questions that you post at the end of the session. Everyone's microphone has been muted because we have got a large amount of people have joined the session. As I'm sure you've all experienced in the last couple of weeks, using digital platforms like Teams and Zoom and GoToMeeting and basically doing things online, you've probably noticed that if you are in a meeting with more than about 5 or 6 people, it can pick up on background noise very, very easily. And before you know it, you've got lots and lots and lots of random noise in the background, which we can't help because we're all at home at the moment. And everyone's got a lot going on, but so that this webinar, so that everybody can hear me clearly, everyone's microphone will be on mute. Also, you can use the raise hand function if you need to alert us of any problems. I'll do my best to help anyone who does have any issues, but what I would recommend is if you're experiencing a technical issue, so in particular, if you find that it keeps cutting out, or maybe you can't hear me, or the screen keeps freezing, 9 times out of 10, that will be an internet problem. So my advice would be maybe just leave the session and then come back. So close it and reopen it again. and hopefully that should solve the problem. You know, at the moment, the world is experiencing such a high volume of people on the internet. I'm sure that nobody was prepared for that. So unfortunately, you know, we are experiencing technical faults here and there. It's just not really anything you can do about it, unfortunately. It's just everything has shifted to the internet all of a sudden, and yeah, it can experience a few little blips here and there. This webinar is being recorded, so from the moment I started it a couple of minutes ago, all the way through to the end, we're recording the webinar. And for everybody that's attended the webinar, we will provide you with a link to download the recording of this webinar. You will very likely get that over the next 24 hours, because once this webinar is over, it does take a bit of time for GoToWebinar to create that file that is then available to download. So what you will do, or what will happen, is a little bit later on, either today or at some point tomorrow, you will all receive an email from us. It will have a few links in that email. Some of them I'll talk about a little bit later on. And you'll have a link to download this webinar. So if you'd like to watch it again, or maybe share it with your colleagues, you'll be able to do that over the next, well, in the next few days. There is a poll at the very start of this webinar. So shortly I'll ask you a question, and when that poll appears, you'll all be able to click and answer and respond to the poll. It's all completely anonymous, so please do give me a response to the poll. You know, the more information I get from you, the better that this webinar will go. Also, at the end of the session, once you leave this session, so once you close it after it's finished, you'll be taken to a quick online survey. It will take you less than 2 minutes to fill it out. It's only, I think it's 3 or 4 questions. And really, it's just for us to improve these webinars going forward. So, you know, we're very open to your opinions. We'd love to hear what you thought of the webinar once it's finished. So, you know, do let us know, you know, what you enjoyed, what you might find useful from Teams, maybe things that you didn't enjoy. But do let us know, so that going forward, we can create and provide the best webinars available to, well, anybody that joins them. So once you finish this webinar and you leave it at the very, very end, do take a moment to fill out the questionnaire. I mean, especially if you're not in a rush, it will only take you a couple of minutes. It's just a few questions, and it will be greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated by us. And also, as part of the email that we'll send you with the link to the recording, you'll also get a link to a quick reference guide, which is just some notes around the bits and bobs that I'm showing you on today's session. So you don't have to write everything down. You don't actually really have to write anything down. I'd rather you just enjoyed the session and maybe ask the questions that go through your mind as you're watching the course. And you will get an email, and within that email, you'll have a link to download a quick reference guide, which will have, you know, the instructions of how to do the bits and pieces that I'm showing you in today's course. So, very quickly, the content that we're going to cover today. So, going to have a look at an introduction into beginning to work with teams. So, we'll have a look at working across multiple teams. We'll have a look at Teams as a chat-based workspace, so how you can communicate with others. We'll have a look at how to set up an online meeting. We'll also have a look at, whilst you are running that online meeting, what are the controls available to you and what are the pieces that you can do within Teams. We'll have a look at its instant messaging capability. We'll touch upon its integration with other Office 365 applications. And in particular, I'll show you a very useful one called Planner. And Planner is a great Office 365 app to integrate into your Teams. Now, what you'll find in today's course is that Office 365, which is what Teams is a part of, offers you so much more functionality than what I can possibly show you today. Even Teams offers you a lot more than what I can show you today, because you can integrate Teams with lots and lots and lots and lots of other applications. If that is something that is of interest to you, do check out our website, which is just escala.co.uk, the same website that you registered onto this course with. You'll find that we have plenty of other courses that we provide, and we look into a lot of those applications in a lot more detail. Also, there are courses about how we can integrate them in with Teams. If it is something that takes your interest, do check out our website. There's much more available. Today I'm just scratching the surface of how to use Teams. And then again, at the end of the session, I'll take some questions as well. So very quickly, the benefits of Teams before we start looking at Teams and using it. So productivity gains and enriched communication. For all of you that have already been using Teams, you've probably realized how easy it is to communicate with everyone in your team, or even anyone within your organization, or for some of you, maybe people outside of your organization. So Teams does have the capability for you to communicate with external members outside your organization, but that will be down to your organization's IT policy in the first place. So I'd imagine from everyone on this course right now, some of you may be able to communicate with external people outside of your organization, but some of you might have an IT system that is very secure because you might handle very sensitive information, and therefore you're not able to communicate with external people. But it is something that can be done within Teams. We're going to also Teams, a good way to think of it is it's like a digital hub. So if you think about sort of traditionally how you're using Microsoft Office, it could be that I want to communicate with a colleague, so I send them an email. It could be that I want to give them access to a file, so I either provide that access through OneDrive or maybe I attach it to an email message. It could be that I want to make a call and call a colleague, so I go into Skype for Business and I make a call through Skype for Business. However, within Teams, you can do all of those things in one place. I can share files. We can collaborate on files as well. We can also make calls with each other, and we can invite others into those calls. We can also instant message. We can also leave comments on files and things as well. So it's like one centralized space for you to work with. And what you'll tend to find across a lot of organizations is as the amount of people using Teams increases, the amount of emails that are sent internally tend to decrease, because there's no need for you to keep sending emails back and forth with each other when you can very simply just message somebody on Teams. Teams also allows you to store lots of useful information in one place. So if you have a new team member, for example, maybe somebody joins your department or maybe somebody joins the organization, you could have within your team maybe a little welcome page, lots of information relevant to your department, and then anybody that joins the organization, again, would become a member of that team. They would then have access to all of that information in one place instead of going between all the different applications and trying to find information that way. And also, it's a seamless move to a digital workplace. So, in many ways, I do understand that over the last couple of months, people have sort of been forced to use Teams more than anything else because, we have been in lockdown and we're not all able to travel into work. So we've kind of been forced to use Teams. But I hope what you've all seen as well is that Teams has been something that has been incredibly easy to transition into. It's not really that difficult to communicate with people. You'll find that within Teams, it's almost very similar to how you would use your mobile phone. You've got messaging, you can make calls with people, you can send stuff to each other. It's been a very seamless transition for lots and lots and lots and lots of people. The only downside of Teams is that it can be a bit confusing because lots of similar Microsoft tools seem to do the same thing. So like I was saying, you can communicate with people via Outlook, you can share files via OneDrive, you can stick files into the SharePoint. Although there are lots of areas of Office 365 that may do things similarly to Teams, you'll find that due to the integration of those applications into Teams, and the fact that nowadays, the way that sort of companies tend to build these applications in the first place is that there's not just one way of doing something. They kind of give people the freedom to work in whatever way that they want. So even internally in our organization, You know, now that we're all mostly working from home and we're communicating with each other, we all tend to use Teams. But then when we're out and about, some people might have the Outlook app on their phone and then they send emails via Outlook. Some people might have Teams on their application on the phone and then use Teams to communicate with people. Some people might use Yammer to communicate with each other. I mean, there's many different ways to kind of achieve the same goal at the end of the day. But you'll find that Teams is probably the easiest one to use, and it's the one that can integrate all the applications into it. So it's absolutely fantastic. So just before I begin the webinar and start showing you Teams and showing you lots of different bits and pieces within Teams, I'd just like to get a feel for what your current knowledge of Teams is. So I'm just going to launch a poll on the screen. And on that poll, if you could please just let me know, you know, how would you describe your current knowledge of Microsoft Teams? You know, maybe you've never used it before, and everything that I've been talking about up until this point, you probably think, what's this guy on about? At the same time, you may have a good amount of knowledge, a little amount of knowledge. You might be an expert in Teams. I don't know. So just going to let everyone put something in there. Just going to wait another sort of 10, 15 seconds to let everyone have a go. And in the meantime, I'm going to finish off my coffee before it becomes cold and I completely forget about it. All right, there we go. So just another 10 seconds or so. If you haven't answered the poll already, please choose one of the options. You can see now that 92% of people have voted. So I'm going to close the poll. And let's just have a look at those results. So we can see that the majority of people on this course would say they have little or fair knowledge or no knowledge whatsoever. So regardless of what your knowledge level or experience with Teams is, I'm sure that everyone will find something useful within today's session. And I really hope more than anything else, once the session is over, you feel confident that you can go away, start using Teams, and maybe start integrating one of the two things that I'm going to show you within this session. You know, the best advice I can give you as an IT trainer is, you know, it's just use the technology, like play around with it, have a go. It's really the best way to learn it. I mean, webinars and videos and quick reference guides and all of those things are fantastic, but those are tools to help you use it. So do go away and use it and practice bits and pieces, and you'll find that Teams is absolutely fantastic and quite easy to pick up and use as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this poll now, and we're going to go straight into Teams. Now, I'm going to show you the desktop application of Teams. You'll find that you can open Teams in lots of different ways. So you can sign into your office.com account, and when you go to office.com, you sign into your Office 365 account, you can open all your applications within there. So you can open Teams from within there as well. You'll find that with some browsers, Teams works a little bit better than others. So in particular, Google Chrome will let you have meetings and share your screen and pass control to other people and do all that fancy stuff. Whereas Firefox, for example, which is a browser that I really enjoy using and have on my computer, it doesn't have all of those plugins available. So although you can open Teams in any browser, you'll find that it works slightly better in some than others. And in particular, Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge, I think they offer sort of almost all the functionality that Teams has to offer. You can also download the desktop application in the same way that you have the Excel desktop application, the Word desktop application, and Outlook and all the other apps. And you can also download and open Teams on your phone and use it that way. So if you have a smartphone, which, you know, I'm guessing everybody probably has a smartphone, you know, at the moment, it doesn't matter whether it's iPhone or Android, doesn't make any difference. You'll find that you can download Teams and you've got an app version of it on your phone as well. All I will say is, just like every other app version of everything, you know, the app versions are sort of slightly watered down. It doesn't offer you the exact same functionality as what you have on the full desktop version of Teams. So in the phone app, you can chat with people, you can attend a meeting, you can call somebody through it. It's great. But for uploading files, collaborating on stuff, that's not something that you're going to be able to do within the phone application. But you never know. Technology is only getting better. Maybe that's something that will appear in an update in the future. All right, so I'm going to switch to Teams. And actually, it might be a bit better if I just come out of this and go into Teams this way. So this is Microsoft Teams. And I'm just using, even though I told you my name is Dan, you'll notice that my character, if you like, on Teams is called Bob Smithson, because of course I'm not going to show you my personal or professional Teams because, I'd then be sharing sensitive information. So therefore, just using made up Teams today that we can just play around with. But this is effectively Microsoft Teams. So you'll notice on the very left-hand side within Teams, and by the way, the version of this that you can open in your web browser looks almost identical. It's very much the exact same thing. So on the very left-hand side, you can see that we've got a navigation pane. So I've got these buttons on the very, very left. So very quickly, and I'll talk about some of these in a bit more detail a little bit later on. The one that we're clicked into now, Teams, this is probably where you're going to spend the majority of your time, because you'll find that within here, it lists all the teams that I'm a member of. And you can also see that within Teams, we have channels. So within this HR task force team, for example, I've got the general, appraisal information, planning, and social media channels. Once I click onto a channel like this one, HR task force, and I click onto general, on the right-hand side, it's got this channel open. So it shows me the main posts thread at the moment, where anyone within the team can start a conversation, click, type, add information in. And you'll notice along the very top, I have tabs. So within these tabs, I can do things like go to a file section where I can upload files from my computer or from my OneDrive or basically anywhere I have them saved. I've also got a section called Wiki, and Wiki isn't Wikipedia. Wiki is more of a notebook. So every team will have a notebook where you can add information. So what's quite useful within here, you can see things like contact numbers. You can see you've got things like abbreviations. You've also maybe if you were doing this for your actual team in the real world, then you would have things like maybe information on where to find certain things on your system, how to do processes that everyone should be able to do, so that anybody new that joins the team just has access to all of this info. We can also add a website. So you can see here, I've got the gov.uk website, and I can use it just like a web page. And this is something I'll show you how to do a little bit later on. I can also pin documents. So if I click into this, I can see here I've got this document appear, this Word document, and I could click in and edit this within here, and I could work on that with my teammates. Again, we'll touch upon this a little bit later. I've also got a tab for Planner. So Planner is fantastic. Again, I'll show you how to use this closer to the end of the session. Planner is a really, really great way to perhaps plan out an event or a project and delegate tasks to team members. And you'll find that within Planner, it's got a built-in dashboard as well. So as tasks are being assigned, completed, worked upon, it just records the information that you feed into it, and it just presents you with these really nice charts. And you'll find you don't have to create any of this. It just kind of does it itself. It's brilliant. And you can also integrate things like Power BI. So we're not really going to focus on Power BI today. And if it is something that is of interest to you, then do check out our website. And we do offer a lot of training in Power BI. Basically, Power Apps, they're a new side of Office 365, and they allow for a lot more interactivity. So for those of you that are familiar with Excel, traditionally I would build this kind of dashboard in Excel. However, now I've got something called Power BI, which is a brand new application altogether. And within Power BI, I can visualize and interact with data. And you can see that I've integrated this into my team. And the really cool thing about this is you can see I can click onto lots of different segments of my charts or of all sorts of different bits and pieces within Power BI. And you can see it actively filters everything on the screen. So this is something that you would be able to do and integrate into your teams should you have this application available to you. And you and your teams could work on data, interact with data, communicate about this data and discuss it all within your teams. So you can see how many different things I've been able to integrate just into this one team. Now, on the very left-hand side, just going back to the navigation pane for a moment, you can see I've also got an activity section on the top left. Within activities, I mean, because I'm using a fictional account, there's not really much, well, there's actually nothing in here at the moment, but think of activity very much like your news feed. So for those of you that use social media, on most social media applications, the landing page when you open it for the first time tends to be a news feed of what's going on and what's recently happened, and teams will do the exact same thing. So today I'll show you things like mentioning people and all those little notifications. You will get those within your feed, within your activity section. So if you were using, your real Teams account, then you would probably want to get into the habit of, switching on Teams, going into activity and seeing what's new. Chat will let you have one-to-one chats or one-to-two chats within here outside of your Teams. So within Teams, if I go back to the normal Teams, anything that I post into this HR task force team, everybody who's a member of that HR task force team will be able to see those posts. However, if I just wanted to chat to Dave or Wendy individually, I could go into chat. I could then locate them by just searching for them at the very top, and then I could just begin a chat with them. We can also share files with each other. You'll also notice that in the top right corner, I can also make a call, and I can also begin to share my screen, and I can invite other people into this chat as well. So Teams, in many ways, it is in a way sort of replacing Skype for Business. So instead of where traditionally within Skype for Business, you would make calls, you could maybe chat with somebody depending on what functionality you had within your Skype for Business. That's all sort of been integrated into Teams now, and Teams is this one digital hub for all of that information. On the left-hand side, I have then also got a calendar. This is all integrated with Microsoft Outlook. So, you can see because Bob is, not a real person, there's not really anything in this. But if I was using my own real Microsoft Teams, I would see all the things in here that I've got within my Outlook calendar, because effectively it's the exact same account, isn't it? I mean, if I go onto Outlook or I'm in Teams, I'm using the exact same login, and it's all Office 365. So the calendar is shared between the applications, and everything that you do within the Teams calendar will be within the Outlook calendar. And similarly, you can do the same thing from Outlook. One of the things I'm not going to show you today is how to schedule a Teams meeting from an Outlook calendar, but you can do it directly from Outlook. So you'll find that within Outlook, if you go into your calendar and you go to create a new event, there's now a new button within there that will say Teams meeting. And if you click onto that, it will then just generate a link for Teams within there, and it will be considered a Teams meeting. So both of the calendars are synchronized between the applications. And on the left-hand side, I can also got a separate calls section where I can make a call. I can also listen to voicemail. So Teams does have a voicemail setting as well. Just like Skype for Business, you can call somebody on Teams. They might not answer. You might leave them a voicemail. And we've also got a files area as well. And the difference between files over here and files within your team is within files over here, you'll see that it lists all of the files from all of the teams that I'm a member of. Whereas within Teams, if I want to see the files for HR Task Force, I need to go into that team and go up to Files. If I want to see the files for Marketing, I need to go into Marketing, go into Files, and then view the files that way. So Files on the left-hand side within the navigation pane is just your kind of hub of all of the files that have been shared with you in all of the teams that you're a member of. Now, if I go back to Teams on the left-hand side, so let's dig into Teams a little bit further. Now, just before I do that, actually, one other section I want to talk about very quickly. In the very top right corner of the screen, where it displays the initials, so I can see here I've got BS for Bob Smithson. If I click onto this, then you can see within here, there's a few very useful things that you can do. Now, I'm just going to move this little thing out of the way. So within here, I can set my availability. You'll find that when you join a meeting, it will automatically adjust your availability. You can also view any saved messages, so we'll come on to that shortly. You can zoom in and out within here as well. So if you're anything like me and you find that maybe the default size of Teams is a bit too small, you may want to zoom in or zoom out. So, you know, me personally and on my Teams, I normally have it zoomed in to 120% like this. I just find it easier to see. At the same time, you may want it the other way, and you can also click into here and you can reduce that and make the font a lot smaller. So totally down to you. You have also got a link for keyboard shortcuts. So if you do want to become an absolute whiz at Teams, then you've got a list of all the shortcuts within here. You know, no other application gives you a list of all its shortcuts. So within here, you can learn all the nice, nifty little shortcuts to get your way around Teams really, really quickly. And one other thing that's really important within here is if I go into settings, now you can do things like, you know, change it from a light theme to a dark theme to a high contrast theme. And there's little bits and pieces here. But the one that's really going to be quite important to you is within devices, you can make a test call and you can check whether your speaker or microphone are functioning properly. So as somebody who, you know, uses a lot of Teams to deliver online training, you know, I find that a lot of people join my training courses and they have a bit of difficulty with their devices. And normally it's because if you've got, you know, one or two audio devices plugged into your computer or into your laptop, you know, Teams isn't necessarily going to pick up on the one that you're going to want to use. So if it's a headset that you've got plugged in and you very rarely use it, you then put it on your head, you join a meeting and you find that the audio is coming out the computer speakers or through the monitor and not through your headset. So this is a really nice way to set this up so that it always works. And where you can make a test call, you know, this whole process would take you 1 minute to be absolutely certain that the device you've got plugged in is working, and also that it's one that's set to then use for Teams. So anybody who is going to be using Teams a lot for meetings, or which, to be honest, I'd imagine all of you probably will. If you're having any difficulty with your devices, do just go into settings, go into devices, and just have a quick configuration of this, and you'll have no problems with it from that point on. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at how to set up a team and then set up some of these things within Teams. Now, naturally, some of the things I show you may not be available to you in your organization. So, for example, even creating a team itself, sort of technically speaking, when you create a team, if you think about it, that has to have a sort of physical location somewhere where that team is saved. And that location is SharePoint. Now, what you'll find is that if, well, a lot of organizations, especially ones like bigger organizations, a lot of the time they won't let their employees create teams, and teams will already have been created for them. So you may find that your teams have automatically been created for you and you've been assigned to those teams. And the reason that they do that is because if everybody had the freedom to create teams, what lots of people would do is, they would go to work on a new project with somebody else, they'd create a team, maybe share a file, use it for 3 days, and then they'd create another team and forget about the one they'd created before. If everybody had 100 teams and you had thousands of people within an organization, you're going to end up with a SharePoint that's clogged up with thousands and thousands and thousands of teams that are just not being used or have only been used once or twice. So to kind of prevent that from happening, a lot of organizations I've found over the last year or so, they kind of prevent their employees being able to make teams, and instead they build the teams for the staff, and then they assign people into teams. And then within those teams, you'll be able to create things like channels, but teams themselves tend to be unavailable. But again, some of you may have the freedom to create teams, I don't know. So if I did want to create a brand new team altogether, at the very bottom left of the screen, I could click on Join or Create a Team. It asks me, how do I want to create a team? So I'm just going to go for Create Team. You can build teams from Office 365 groups. So if you have groups set up within Office 365, you'd be able to build from those. But I'm just going to build a team from scratch. You can build a team that's private. So you've probably noticed on the left-hand side of my screen, some of those teams and channels have padlocks next to them. If they're private, it means that as the creator of the team, you will need to invite people into it. You've also got public teams that anyone in the organization can join. So that would be quite useful maybe for if you were going to have perhaps something like a summer party and you create a team was created for summer party. You want everyone to be able to join that. They don't need permission to join it. As long as they're part of the organization, they can join that team. We use this internally. We have like an all-staff team. And then, if somebody wants to post something that they want the rest of the organization to be a member of, then they might create an org-wide team, because an org-wide team, it says everyone in your organization automatically joins. Now, it's totally down to you which kind of team you want to create. I'm just going to go for a public team. I can give my team a name. So I'm just going to call this one, what should I call it? I'll call it Teams Training, because, that's what we're doing. You can add a description as well. So team, I'll put dedicated to getting the most from MS Teams. And it takes a moment to create the team. Once the team has been created, you get the nice little thumbs up. You can now add members to the team. You don't have to do this straight away. You can do this later. So I'm going to add maybe one of my colleagues. So I'm going to add Dave, and I'm also going to add Wendy into this team. I click on to add. Again, you can add people at a later date as well. You can also set their permissions within here. So, naturally owners have a lot more permission available than members. Members can still contribute to teams, type things, open files, upload them. It's all good. And now that that team has been created, you can see on the left-hand side, I've got that team, and then I've also got the general channel underneath it. So there's always a general channel for every single team. It's just created automatically like this one was a moment ago. Now, if I wanted to then manage that team and add additional people into it, when I hover over the name of the team, you can see I get these 3 dots on the right-hand side. When I click on those 3 dots, I've got the option to add member, so I could add somebody into that team. I could also leave the team myself. I could edit the team. If I go to manage team, then within manage team, you have got some more options within here, so I can see who is a member of this team. You can change permissions. I can also see the channels that have been created for the team. I can go into settings and I can switch on and off some features within Microsoft Teams. You can change the picture. And you have also got an analytics section, which is pretty cool. Not really going to explore this today, but it will constantly gather information of what's going on in the team, and you can see what's been going on. So it's really, really cool from that perspective as well. But anyway, not going to focus on this one today. So when I open that general channel, you can see at the very top, I've got the Posts tab, I've got a tab for files, and I've automatically got that Wiki tab as well. Now, if I would like to begin posting things within Teams, I mean, very simply, at the very bottom where I've got the Start a New Conversation option, I could post things. So I could say, you know, hello everyone, and welcome to the team. And I could send that message and everybody would get that message. One of the cool things about messages is you can reply to messages. So it's very much like Facebook in a way. If I wanted to say something to Bob, so imagine I'm somebody else and I want to say, you know, oh, hi, Bob. Instead of me posting that as a separate message, you can see that I can reply to Bob's message. At the very bottom, I can also click into here and I can @mention somebody. Now, if you @mention somebody, you can also do this in WhatsApp, by the way. I'm sure everybody's probably come across it there. If I type an @ symbol and maybe I @Wendy and I say, you know, hi, Wendy. If you @mention somebody, the benefit of @mentioning them is not only does it appear in their activity that they've been mentioned in a post, which they could then click on and go directly to, but when you @mention somebody, they automatically receive an email letting them know that they've been @mentioned within a team. So it's a really good way to grab someone's attention. You know, maybe you're discussing something and it concerns that person, and I want to say, oh, @Wendy, what's your opinion on this? Because maybe she's the subject matter expert. Then instead of sending her an email, I can just @mention her. She'll get a notification within her activity, and she'll also receive an email letting her know that she's been mentioned in something. It's a good way to grab somebody's attention. If I go back into the area at the bottom, instead of typing just into this box, you can see underneath you've got some icons. The very first one, the format icon, this will just give me some traditional font formatting options. So you'll notice within here, you've got things like bold, italic, underline. You can click onto the A, change the font color, and you can post, you know, slightly more fun looking messages. You can also choose to post in multiple channels. So if I click on post in multiple channels, not only am I posting this to general in this training teams team, I could also click on select channel, and maybe I wanted to post something into marketing as well, perhaps. And I could pick a few channels within there. And now my post is going to go into all 3 of those channels. So it might be, you know, congratulations. And then I might say, you know, congrats on all the hard work, everyone. And again, I could select that, I could change its color, make it look nice. And when I then post that, not only does it go into this team, if I go into teams on the left-hand side, and let's go back into teams, there we go. And if I then go into the marketing team, I can see that that's been posted into there as well. So you can post into multiple channels. You can also, within here, make announcements. So where it says new conversation, if I choose announcement, you can see an announcement has a headline. So here might be, you know, the announcement, it's summer. Because, you know, even though the weather keeps changing from sunny to raining, it is still nice and warm outside. I could even add a little background image. I could upload one from my computer. I can also pick maybe a more summary feel over here. Could add subheadings. I could type my announcement, something like enjoy the sunshine. And then I could post that as well. And then you have also got a few other things along the bottom here. So you can post emojis. You know, if you're a fan of emojis, you can post those in there. So we can have this cool dancing penguin and we could post that. You've also got GIFs as well. So if I click into here, you can see you've got all sorts of GIFs. You know, when everybody gets their hands on Teams for the first time, you know, everyone uses GIFs for everything. So the dancing dog is quite funny. I might want to post that and give everyone a smile. You know, all sorts of fun things that you can do. And you've also got stickers as well. If anyone's a fan of memes, you'll find lots of popular memes within here as well. So you can have a lot of fun with Teams too. Now, just one more thing about posts. If I wanted to save a post, so, perhaps I want to save this congratulations post, you can see that you can like posts as you just hover over them and go into the top right corner. You can do things like them and react to them, just, like you would on social media. And if I click the three dots at the very end, I've got an option to save this message. Now, if you save messages, it saves them. If you were to go up to the top right corner where you've got your initials, if I click into that and then go down to saved, within here, it lists all my saved messages. So I can save any message within Teams and I can come back to it later. With a lot of these post threads, they become very busy very quickly. And it might be that not everything within the post is, relevant to myself or, everybody within that team. So it could be that amongst 100 messages, there might be one that's really useful for me. So instead of me opening the team in the future and scrolling my way through it and thinking, oh yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks ago I read that, and trying to find it, if I see something that's important, I might want to hover over that post, click on the three dots, save the message, and then I can simply go up here, go into saved, and then I've got a list of all those saved messages. Pretty cool. Now, just to go back to Teams, if I want to start a meeting, you can start a meeting within a team. So at the very bottom, if I just wanted to meet with everyone, you can see you've got the little video camera icon. If I click onto this, I can add a subject. So this might be, quick meeting. I then click onto meet now. It then opens up the meeting window. So this is what meeting windows will look like. You can see here on the right-hand side, I've got this participants area. So it's suggesting that I might want to invite Wendy and Dave. Could click on the three dots, ask them to join. Can see that they're currently unavailable because, this is just made up Teams. But, normally people would be on Teams and they would get that notification. I can invite somebody. I can also click copy join info to get a link that I could then email and link to somebody else. I can also, on this panel of controls over here, I've got the option to hang up. I could show the conversation. So within the meeting, we can have a meeting chat on the right-hand side. So, it might be that Bob is talking and I could say, oh, great point there, Bob. And I could have a chat with my colleagues within the meeting itself. You can raise a hand. And if you raise a hand, it puts a hand by your name. So then the presenter will know that maybe you've got a question and they could see that and ask, it's a good way to get attention, right? And then you could give that person the opportunity to ask their question. If I click onto share, I can then begin to share my screen within a Teams meeting. You can share windows, you can share your entire computer. You can also open other applications. You can mute yourself, you can switch your webcam on and off. And if you click onto the three dots, you've got a few very useful options within here. So for example, turn on live captions as a new feature. If I choose to turn on the live captions, which will hopefully appear in a moment, you can see it captures what I'm saying and it then just starts typing it underneath. And even if I talk really quickly like this, you'll see it captures it very well. I mean, look at that. It's really, really, really good. I've been using a lot of this recently. If I click on the three dots, you can also record your meetings. So if I choose to record my meeting, it tells me at the top that it's now recording. And the benefit of recording it is that it's going to automatically make a video of this so that if people miss the meeting, they could then go back, watch the video, and they could then see everything that went on within that meeting. So anyway, I'm going to hang out and get out of this meeting. And now we'll come back to this shortly. You'll see that it's going to create a video file here. So it says recording has stopped, saving recording to Microsoft Stream, and it just takes a couple of minutes and it will make that video available. Now, along the very bottom, I've also got options to give praise. So you've got a little badge icon. So give praise is one of the newer features as well. Maybe I'm going to give praise. Let's use this unicorn here because it looks really cool. And maybe we're going to give Dave some praise. Personalized note, you know, awesome job on the recent project. So maybe Dave did a fantastic job. I could then send that into the team, and then everyone can see that Dave got an awesome job, and give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and pretty cool, right? Nice way to recognize and share the love with your team members. Now, if I also wanted to schedule a meeting, because I just showed you how we could run a meeting from a team, you can also schedule meetings, and you can very simply do that by going into calendar on the left-hand side. You can see in the top right corner, I've got new meeting. I click onto new meeting. So this might be, I don't know, post course discussion, perhaps. I could then add attendees. So again, I could add maybe Dave and Wendy as attendees. I could set a time and a date, just like you would schedule a meeting within Outlook. I could also invite channels. So maybe I'm going to invite all of the marketing channel, and I could add some information within here. And then very simply, I just hit send in the top right corner. It creates that meeting within my calendar, and it also sends an invite to both Dave, Wendy, and everyone that's a member of that marketing channel as well. Now, if I go back to the team itself, you can attach files into your team. So very simply at the very bottom, I could click onto the little paperclip icon. I could attach something from OneDrive. I could attach something from my computer, perhaps. So I don't know. I'm just going to go for this document here, which is just a made-up document that I'm going to upload. You can see it takes a moment for it to upload it into the conversation. So I could say, here is the file, and I could post that into my team. Not only is it available in the posts area, if I go up to files at the very top, you can see it's open within here as well. You could then simply click to open that file. However, one of the cool things that you can do within Teams is if you click the little three dots by the file name, I've got the option to open. And if I then choose edit in Teams, you'll see that it's going to open this file within Teams. And then myself and my colleagues could literally just be clicking in here and all working on this at the exact same time. So this offers you live collaboration. Instead of going into OneDrive, sharing a file with somebody and both of you opening it from OneDrive, why not just stick it into a team like I just did, go up to files, click on the three dots by the name of the file, open and edit in Teams, and then we could all be editing it within Teams. In the top right corner, I can open the conversation, and I could then have a conversation. So I could say, oh, at Wendy, perhaps, please review this paragraph, and I could send that within there. We could also be having a live conversation because, we're all within this particular document at the same time. Really cool. So it allows for live editing as well. What you can also do is if you'd want to make that document a tab at the very top, you simply hit the three dots and you just go on to make this a tab. And it now adds that tab at the very top of this particular team. So now everyone can just open it super quick. If I go back to my posts area, if I go back into files, actually, one other thing you can do is as this list becomes very busy, if you click on the three dots, you've also got the option pin to top. If I choose pin to top, it then just creates a link of this document up here. So then instead of having to scroll through for documents, you can very simply just open them directly from that little pinned area up there. If I go back into my posts area, Let's say actually maybe you want to add some additional tabs at the very top. So if you want to add a website, I mean, you're adding a website, you simply have to make sure that it's got HTTP at the start of the website. It needs to be a secure website. So I don't know, I'm going to take the Escala homepage. You know, we're a secure site. We've got HTTPS. So I'm going to copy that. I'm then simply just going to hit the plus in the top corner. You can see not only can you integrate lots of popular applications, but you can integrate all sorts of applications. So for those of you that maybe use things like WebEx, you can integrate WebEx into Teams. If you're using things like CoachBot, you can integrate that. If I scroll a little bit further through this list, I can also integrate, I mean, there's loads in here that I've never even heard of. You've also got really popular ones like Poly, Workaround. Look, there's WebEx over there. Freehand by Envision's pretty cool. YouTube. You can integrate just about anything really, and they're all approved by Microsoft. So you know that they'll all work, and you know that they're all safe as well. Adobe as well, the Creative Cloud. If you're an Adobe user and you use things like Photoshop, InDesign, you might want to integrate your Creative Cloud into Teams. You can do that too. I'm just going to show you today one or two of these. So website is going to be one of them. I just paste the link into this section over here, hit save, and it's going to take a moment to load. And you can see, I mean, look, it's just as simple as that. And now I've got this website page within here, and I can just use this like I'd use a website. It's brilliant. If I hit the plus at the very top, so the other application I promised to show you was Planner. So if I choose to integrate Planner, Planner is an Office 365 app, so you'll find that you've also got access to this within Office 365. I'm going to show you using Planner within a team, but because I know people ask this question a lot, can you use Planner sort of privately for yourself to organize your own tasks in your own day? Yeah, you can, absolutely, but not within Teams. So what you would want to do is you would want to go to office.com, sign into your Office 365 account, and then in the top left corner, when you click on your app launcher and it lists all of your apps, go into Planner, and you'll have your own personal plan that you can create as well. So if you'd like to organize your day, or if you like the look of Planner, it's something that you can do. Now, Planner is fantastic. So you can use Planner for just about everything. It's a great way to create and delegate tasks and monitor their progress. So perhaps I'm going to create a summer party plan, because unfortunately, you know, we're probably not going to get chance this year to have summer parties. But you know, gonna create one for summer party, and I'm gonna hit save. So you can see it creates the tab at the very top. Then within Planner, your groups of tasks are called buckets. So I've got this one bucket called to do, which I could also rename. So this could be, you know, before the party. Then I could add a bucket for during party. And then here I could have post party. And then simply I can add tasks. So maybe I'm going to add a task for before the party, invitations, right? Probably important that we're going to invite people to this party. Otherwise, how will they know that it's there? So we're going to have invitations. We're going to set a due date of that needs to be done by Friday. And I'm going to be responsible for this, and so is Wendy. We're both going to be responsible for that. And we can add that task. Then maybe we're going to add another task. So we're going to give the task a name. So maybe we're going to have food and drink, because you know, if people are going to go to a party, they're probably going to want something to snack on, and maybe something nice to drink as well. Again, the due date might be next Thursday. I'm going to assign that to Dave. He's going to be responsible for that one. And actually, I'll have a hand in that as well. Make sure he gets good snacks. Then I'm going to do some tasks during the party. So add task, maybe welcome guests. That might be a task. I'm going to assign that to myself. You know, I like speaking to people. Don't need to set a due date on this one. What else is going to be important during the party? Oh, music. So maybe music. Wendy's got good taste in music. Maybe not Dave. So we'll assign Wendy, and then we can add that task. And anyway, and then we'll have a post party. So post party cleanup, the one that nobody likes to do. And we're going to assign everyone's going to be responsible for a bit of cleanup. Now, what you could then do is you can edit these a lot further. So I could click on something like invitations, and it pops up with a little window where I could edit that a lot further. So I can add things like a priority. You know, this is probably going to be very urgent. I can also set the progress. I can also set a start date. I can add notes. So, you know, please create and email invitations. You can add a checklist as well. So checklist might be design, invitation. Then I'm going to have send invitations. And then I'm going to have gather responses. You can also choose show on card. So if I show those on the card, you can see that on the card itself. You can attach files and you can type comments underneath as well. So I could say, hi everyone, I've designed the invites or invitations. Who knows? And then I could send that as well. And then anyone that clicks into this task can see, you know, click in here and see those comments. So we can have a nice chat about the specific task within the task itself. I could also check things off the list. So, you know, I've designed it. I'm going to check that off the list. I could also then say that this task has been completed. So I tick the box to say it's completed, and it goes in its own bucket underneath. Maybe food and drink is completed as well. And if I ever want to see the overview of this, I can go up to charts, and then within charts, you can see it's created that nice, awesome dashboard for me. On the right-hand side, I can filter by maybe tasks for a certain due date, tasks that are assigned to certain people. It's brilliant. It's a really, really, really good way for you to organize and share work with other people. So Planner within Teams is, you know, fantastic. Very, 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 very useful. And a final thing that I haven't touched upon, at the very top, you've got the search button. So you can search for people. You know, I could do at maybe Dave, and I could then type a message directly to Dave. I could say, hi, Dave, literally all in the search box. And as you can see, sending that message, press enter to go into my private chat with Dave. So it just takes me to that chat area. I can also search for keywords. So maybe I'm going to search for the word team or teams. And you can see it comes up with Teams training channel. And I could go directly over there. You've also got the option, it says type a /. If you type a /, now this is really cool. You can see it gives you a bunch of shortcuts. So you can see that if I typed in type maybe away, it sets my status to away. Type call and then someone's name will call them. You've got type the / and then test call, and then it will make a test call. So I don't even have to go into settings to do that. I can do that directly from within here. If I want to see all my app mentions, I just type in mentions, and then it would show me all my app mentions. So it says getting your app mentions. I probably haven't been app mentioned in anything, to be honest, because, you know, again, fictional account that I'm using today, but there's lots of cool shortcuts that you can do up here. Really, 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 really good. So /, and then I can do that information. Now, I've only scratched the surface of what Teams has to offer. So I hope you've all enjoyed all the Teams bits and pieces that I've been showing you. You can integrate it with so many more Office 365 applications. You can do so much more within Teams than what I've shown you today. Do check out our website if this all sounds interesting to you. I'm just going to draw your attention back to PowerPoint before I start taking questions. So let's go back into PowerPoint. So one other thing, Teams for Education, which is separate to this team. So anybody on here that maybe works at a school or works in education and uses Teams for Education instead of just the normal Teams that the business world is using, where Teams for Education is slightly different, we do have a special webinar for Teams for Education. And the next one is actually running on the 7th of July, which I believe is next Tuesday. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Yep, it's next Tuesday. So if you're interested in that and you want to know, well, you're an educator using Teams for Education and you want to know more about it, then do check out that webinar because it is different to regular Teams. You can also register for the resources pack at escala.co.uk/NHS free MS Teams webinar. We will also send you an email as well. And in that email, you will get information on how to register. So you'll have all of these links that I've talked about. You'll also have a link to download a copy of this webinar so you can watch it again. And you'll also get a link to download a quick reference guide that has notes and instructions on the little bits and pieces that I've shown you in today's course. So, before I start taking questions, anyone who's in a rush, I just want to say, thank you very, very much for joining me today. I really hope you've enjoyed the webinar. I hope you got some useful information from it. When you do exit the webinar, please do take a moment to fill out the few questions on our survey because, it makes a massive difference to us to know what people thought about it so that we can improve it going forward. So we're going to be delivering a lot more of these. We just want to know what you think, and we're open to any opinions, criticisms, ideas, anything whatsoever, so that we can improve the quality of what we're doing. I really do hope you have all enjoyed it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start taking some questions. So I'm going to unshare my screen for a moment. And I'm going to have a look into the questions, and I'm going to see if there's any questions within here that I can now go through and answer. All right, so just looking at the questions. About these saved messages. So the saved messages are organized by date. So the most recent one goes on the top, and the oldest one goes down to the bottom. So somebody then has a question about changing the background. So yes, I didn't show you that today because I didn't use my webcam. So while you've got a webcam, those three dots when you're within a Teams meeting that you click onto, it will let you change your background. I don't think it's because you're using a Chromebook. It's to do with I think it's a certain update. So it may firstly be that you don't have the update, but secondly, it might be that you're opening it in a browser instead of the full desktop version. So sometimes that can be a bit, that can be the reason that works or doesn't work too well. So just seeing that there's a question about where do you find your meeting recordings? So your meeting recordings is within, so like the one that I recorded within this Teams meeting that we were doing earlier. So that will be available in the channel itself. So within that channel, if you scroll through the post, you would find the link to it, but it then saves it to Microsoft Stream. And Microsoft Stream it's just the media player application that's part of Office 365. So if you log into office.com and then sign into your account, and in the top left where you click on the All Applications button, you'll see that you'll have one called Stream. It's just like media player basically, but part of Office 365. And when you open up Stream, you'll see that within there. So let's have a look. Is there, so somebody asked a question about, is there an option to have a virtual work colleague, family, friend, to try and practice the different options? No, I mean, as a training company, like we tend to have these, basically sign up for another sort of training teams environment that we use. So unless you kind of sign up for one, unfortunately not, no. So it would just be like buying a second account. But what I would recommend is maybe yourself and a colleague, you can practice a lot of the things within chat. So within the chat side of Teams, if you were to start chatting with maybe somebody that you're friends with within the organization, then within that chat, you can do more than just chat. You can have a meeting together. You can click that plus button at the very top and add other applications into your sort of one-to-one group that you have. So that might be a good place to practice it as well, without sort of clogging up the teams that you're already a member of. Got a question about what app did I use for the poll? That's just part of GoToWebinar. So I'm not delivering this through Teams, because if I delivered it through Teams, it would be difficult for me to train Teams while using Teams, if that makes sense. So that I could show you the sort of full functionality of Teams, we use GoToWebinar for this. So it's got a question about unable to see your calendar. So there's two reasons that might have happened. The first one is sometimes it's not called calendar, sometimes it's called schedule. It just depends on the update that you've got. But secondly, there's 3 dots at the bottom of that navigation pane on the left-hand side. If you click on the 3 dots, it lets you add other applications into that navigation pane. It could just be that you accidentally removed calendar and you should be able to add it through there. Then got a question as, can you add the meeting recording as a tab? I don't think so, no. I think you can add documents and spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. I'm not too sure about media files. However, you would be able to download that from Microsoft Stream and upload it into the files section of your team, and then you could pin that to the top of that file section like I did with that document, but I don't think you'd be able to add it as a tab. It doesn't let you add everything as a tab, unfortunately. The only other thing I want to say actually before you all go is, do keep your eyes peeled with Microsoft Teams, as in, because it's now the most popular application in the world, there's updates to it almost all the time. So you'll find that Teams updates almost non-stop. And what that basically means is that today, maybe something that I say is not possible, but then tomorrow it becomes possible all of a sudden. So you'll find that they do update this almost every couple of days. If you want to know more about upcoming updates or updates that have happened, if you simply just Google Microsoft Teams, it will take you to the Microsoft website, and you'll see that you've got Teams, and then they'll have like a recent update section. So I check this, being a trainer, training a lot of teams at the moment, it's something that I check very, very regularly, at least once every 2 days, because Teams does have a lot of sort of quality of life updates. They are listening a lot to feedback, because I think on average there's 70 million people a day using Teams. So I'd imagine they get a lot of suggestions and feedbacks around it. So yeah, you'll find that where they do update it very regularly, it is good to see what's going on. For a lot of the sort of major updates, when you sign into Teams or open it in the morning before work, it will give you a notification letting you know, oh, by the way, this is a new feature available in Teams, but it doesn't tell you every new feature within Teams. So for example, the one with the closed captions or the subtitles as I was speaking in the meeting, I didn't get a notification about that. Had I not checked that that was available in Teams, I probably wouldn't have noticed unless I'd clicked there, during a training session or something like that. So it's a good idea to just visit the Microsoft website regularly, check what the updates for Teams are, and yeah, there's loads on a very, very regular basis. It's definitely their sort of leading product at the moment. All right. So there doesn't seem to be any more questions. So I'm going to leave it at that. So thank you very, very, very much to everyone who came to the session. And I really, really, really hope you'd all enjoyed it. Now more than ever, like, please do take care of yourselves and take care of your loved ones. I wish everybody all the best. We'll hopefully catch you maybe on a training session at some point in the near future. But until then, enjoy the summer. Thank you very much from me. Have a lovely, lovely, lovely day, and all the best going forward. So thank you very, very much.